What's up guys, I'm back with another video and today I'm gonna talk about progressive overload. It's a very relevant topic. I'm gonna explain what progressive overload is, how you should use it, how you should track progressive overload, some common mistakes. So let's get right into it. First of all, what is progressive overload? Progressive overload is getting stronger progressively over time and usually over long periods of time. And this is used in workout or in gym training to maximize muscle growth because your muscles will get stronger as you train them, and therefore you need more of a challenge towards the muscle to stimulate it again and again and again. And progressive overload actually gives you some very useful insights towards the amount of muscle that you're growing. And for example, if you're in a caloric deficit and you're losing fat, but you can actually maintain the amount of strength that you have from all your exercises, you're most likely keeping all of your muscle or close to all of your muscle. Because if you were to lose muscle, you would get weaker because muscle, by definition, causes strength. Because, yeah, that's just how it works. Muscles can contract. More contractile units means more strength. So if you're gaining or if you're able to maintain your amount of strength when you're cutting, you're most likely maintaining muscle mass. Next up is, and also another example is going to be that if you're slowly getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and you keep that up for long periods of time, so let's say more than 3 months or so, you're most likely growing muscle, or pretty certainly you're growing muscle, because if you didn't gain any muscle, you would not have a reason to get stronger. So that's a very useful insight to have. If your weights aren't going up over time, you're either not training well enough, or you're just not gaining any muscle. So that's a very useful piece of information for you. Um, so that's why I personally track my weights, so that I always know what weights to use, of course, but also to gain some information on what exercises are progressing quickly, what exercises are progressing slowly. Are all my exercises getting stronger and stronger and stronger? If not, do I need to do more sets, less sets, train at a higher frequency, lower frequency? And all those types of changes can be made based off of how much strength you're gaining. Next up is going to be how to track progressive overload. It might seem simple, but a lot of people still make some very common mistakes. The first mistake, and which is going to be the most common, is that your form doesn't stay the same. So when you're starting off, you're doing X amount of weight and you want to get stronger and stronger because you obviously have to progressive overload. But then people just go heavier, or go too heavy too soon. They're just impatient and they're fucking up their form, and they're just making their progress worse because they're chasing progressive overload. And the reason you don't want to chase progressive overload is because it's the result of muscle growth. It's not the thing that's going to gain muscle growth directly. First you gain muscle and then you gain strength that comes with the muscle. You can't just get stronger and therefore have built more muscle. That's not how it works. So how you should track progressive overload is going to be a double progression system, which I'll give you an example. Let's say your rep range is 5 to 10 reps and you wanna just get stronger at it. So let's say you're doing a weight for 5 reps, you get stronger, you do 6 reps with the same weight, you get stronger 7, 8, 9, 10 reps. And once you reach 10 reps, you go up to the next weight and start over again at maybe around 5 or whatever, 7 reps. And every time you reach the top end of your rep range, which in this case is 10 reps, you go heavier. And this is pretty basic, but some people still don't know this. Next up is going to be intensity. If you're doing 5 reps with, let's say, 1 rep in reserve, and you want to get stronger and you're tracking your weights, you don't want to change the amount of reps you leave in reserve. Because if I'm doing 5 reps with 1 rep in reserve, that's going to be, and next time I'm going to do 6 reps with no reps in reserve. That's not progressive overload. You're just kind of screwing up your training because you wanted to leave a rep in reserve to optimize your training, and you're no longer doing that. So that's also a mistake you should avoid. Next up is going to be how quickly should you progressively overload. And first, to get to this answer, you need to understand a few things. What causes the amount of strength that I have, which is going to be, as I discussed, muscle size. If you have big muscles, you're going to have strong muscles, but it's not a one-to-one correlation. The amount of strength you have isn't always an exact number of how much muscle you have, because there's other things that influence the amount of strength you have. So next up is going to be technique, and this is kind of, you could consider technique to be part of that strength. How strong are you with X technique? But it's going to be something you should also consider. For example, me, I'm a power lifter. I'm a lot stronger than most people because my technique is just very good. Next up is going to be neural adaptations, which pretty much means how good is your brain at executing a movement, because your brain controls your muscles. If you're very familiar with a muscle, or with an exercise, I should say, you're going to be very efficient at recruiting motor units. You're going to be very efficient with executing that exercise. You're not going to waste much energy, and you're just going to get a lot stronger, which is also what powerlifting, which is what I do, is also based on partially. So you need big muscles, technique, and neural adaptations. And besides that, if you keep all the other factors like intensity the same, those are going to be the main things that influence progressive overload. And because of those neural adaptations, well, let's put technique to the side first, because that's going to be a part of strength, kind of. But because of those neural adaptations, you're going to be able to get very strong on an exercise in the first few weeks to maybe 2 months. You're going to get like a lot stronger on exercises if you are new to an exercise. So let's say you swap from a chest fly to a chest press. You're now going to get a lot stronger in those first few weeks of doing a chest press. And if you swap back to a chest fly, you're probably going to become a bit weaker than you once were, depending on how long you did the chest press for, of course. So in the first few months, few weeks, you should be getting a lot stronger. You're just going to notice you can go up in weight very quickly, maybe even once a week. Maybe you get a rep every single workout. But that's going to be your brain getting more used to the movements. And besides that, or after that, I should say, so let's say you've done an exercise for 3 months straight, and after that you do another year of that exercise. All the extra strengthening is gonna come from gaining muscle. So after the neural adaptations, you can really know if you are gaining muscle. So it's gonna be slow because muscle growth is a very slow process. But if you're a beginner and you're actually training well, you might still be able to progress every single session. Or every single session might not be realistic. For some people it can be if you actually, for example, you have a good workout program, maybe even a coach or whatever, you might be able to progress every single session. But it should be slow, especially if you're advanced. So I've been going to the gym for over 3.5 years now, and progression will just be slow. It should still be more than the average person, because if the average person doesn't train well, of course, but it's gonna be relatively slow. What else do I have to say? Yeah, obviously, if you're not very muscular, after a few years, you might still be able to progress quickly. So that's also something to consider. Next up, some people actually stall at a certain weight because they just don't train well enough. And after a few years, let's say after 3 years, you are no longer progressing on an exercise, even though muscle growth is supposed to continue for at least 5 years, maybe 10 years of good training. Now that tells you that you're just not training well. You should be looking to fix your training or your recovery, because after 3 years you should still be making progress, even if it's slow. So that's why progressive overload is a very useful tool, to gain information on your training, to make sure you're training well. Yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time, and you can comment if you have any video ideas or topics you want me to discuss next. Bye.